Hello again, everybody. I'm Susie Mullens with the Collegiate Recovery Network, and today my guest is Jamie Menshouse, and she is our peer recovery support specialist with Marshall University Collegiate Recovery Program, and she is going to talk with us today about smart recovery. So welcome, Jamie. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be with us and talk about smart recovery today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm always excited to talk about SMART.
So tell us a little bit about what SMART is. What does SMART stand for?
So SMART stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. And SMART has a lot going on for it, honestly. It is a 4 points model, which I think I can pull up their website. And go through that real quick.
How did you get introduced to SMART?
So I got introduced to SMART. I originally, whenever I got into recovery, it was suggested that I go to AA and NA meetings. I did, and for me personally, they did not work too well. Then my therapist at the time was like, well, have you heard about SMART? And the only thing that I'd heard about was AA and NA. So I went to a SMART recovery meeting, and my first meeting, I absolutely loved it. The facilitator immediately called me out on my negative self-sabotaging behaviors, which for me is what I needed. I felt that for me personally in AA, I could get away with or cheat by just saying what needed to be said. Whereas my SMART facilitator would recognize whenever I was just basically repeating back what people wanted me to say. So I felt like it worked really well for me.
Well, it's important that people have options, and the theme for this week is multiple pathways to recovery. So what works for one person doesn't always work for another person. So I'm glad you found something that works for you.
Yes. So a little bit about SMART. So it is abstinence oriented, but that again depends kind of on the group. Some groups adhere to recovery you're in recovery if you're safe, if you say you're in recovery. Something that I'm really excited about is that SMART recently took a positive stance towards MAR, whereas before they had no stance on it. They're now saying that, medication-assisted recovery is a valid form of treatment. And I'm really excited about that because that makes me be able to be more inclusive in my groups and make sure that if people are coming in, that they feel comfortable to talk about if they're using or if their pathway is medication-assisted recovery. Another thing I really like about SMART is that it doesn't use labels like addict or alcoholic. I personally like that because I grew up with those being bad words. You did not want to be those things. And so it has helped me take control of my life by being able to say I'm a person in long-term recovery. And by overall, for me, recognizing that I'm more than just my addiction, I'm more than just my past, that I am the whole person and that there's a lot of things that make up me. Oh gosh. There we go. And so I can talk real quick about the 4 points program. So first is building and maintaining motivation to change. They have a lot of worksheets that go along with that. One of them is hierarchy of values. I really like that one. It goes through what are your most important things. And the first time that I went to SMART, this is what I mean by being called out. I put up there that my sister was the number one most important thing to me. And right before that, I talked about how I had put my sister in danger because of my use. And so the facilitator was like, is she really the most important thing to you if you're doing things that would endanger her? And I had to really look at that and see that if I wanted her to be number one, that I had to put my recovery first. And so that recovery needed to be in that top box of most important things to me. Second is coping with urges. They have a couple worksheets that go along with that as well. One is recognizing your triggers. I think that's super important for everybody, to recognize your triggers. Another one is basically what it does is it addresses irrational thoughts. So whenever we first get into recovery, we might be going through withdrawals, and we might have the irrational thought of, this withdrawal is going to kill me. Not to take away, some withdrawals can do that, but we might be like, this is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever felt. I'm going to die if I don't use. And then recognizing that that's not true, that it is uncomfortable, but if we kind of push through it, unless we need medical help, if we push through it, that eventually the urges the urges will die down, and eventually we'll get to a point where they're not quite as bad and they will slowly get better. Third is managing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. This is basically CBT. That's really what it is. It's a nicer way of saying cognitive behavioral therapy. One example that was used one of the first times that I went to SMART, and I still use it, is whenever a family member is angry at you because you're using, they might yell at you, they might, tell you to get out, they might be mean to you. That is their outside behavior. Their inside is fear, is they're scared, they're worried about you. And so it's making sure that our thoughts and feelings match the behavior that we express. So that looks like really taking gauge of what's going on inside of our head. I spent months writing down whatever thoughts came to my head to work on my own negative self-talk. And SMART is really what got me there. It was measuring anytime I talked negatively about, or thought negative thoughts about myself, or thought negative thoughts about my ability to keep up with recovery. I wrote them down. And I basically kept track of them for 3 months. And in the first month, I filled up like an entire journal, like front and back, with all the negative things that I had to say about myself. And at the second month, it was about half a journal. And at the third month, it was about a fourth a journal, because I slowly started making sure that, basically I would address it each time I had that negative thought, and then go from there. So I really like that one. And then fourth is the main one that I really like, which is living a balanced, positive, and healthy life. So you can't just do the things or say you're doing the things. You have to do the things, say the things, all of it. So if you're in recovery, that's more than just not using. That's more than just not using and going to meetings. That's not using, that's going to meetings. That's taking care of yourself physically. I didn't know I was supposed to go to a doctor regularly until I got into SMART, and they were like, how often do you go to a doctor? Because that's super important to take care of yourself. As well as, for me, going to therapy at the time. So it's a holistic approach to your recovery. So that was, if I needed spiritual guidance, they knew where to send me. If I needed, a doctor, they were like, here, go talk to this person. So yeah.
Great. So there's also Smart Recovery for Friends and Family. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So SMART also has friends and family. And if you've ever gone to Al-Anon, it's basically the Smart Recovery version of that. It talks a lot about acceptance. So that's unconditional acceptance of self, unconditional acceptance of others, and unconditional acceptance of things. That is, I might not agree with this person, I might not agree with what they're doing, but I accept them, and I accept that they're going to do it. So a big part of friends and family is not focusing so much on your loved one's use, especially if they're still in active addiction, not going through their phone to check and see who they've messaged, not following them late at night to figure out where they're going, not going and checking out all the hot spots. Those are bad things for yourself. They literally force you to focus on that person so much that you can lose your identity in them. And friends and family, I think it's amazing for people who either have loved ones in recovery or have loved ones that are still in active addiction, because it teaches people how to really put that focus back on themselves. You know, sometimes whenever we get family members who are in recovery, we still have some of those old habits of keeping up with them, literally managing basically their entire lives because we want to see them do good. And we can lose ourselves in that too. We spend so much time first focusing on getting them out of active addiction, and then second on keeping them in recovery, that, you know, it's so important that we turn that focus back on ourselves. And so that's what I do with a lot of friends and family. And that's what the whole training is turning that focus back on yourself, recognizing that you are an important person, and accepting your loved one's actions, that you cannot control their actions, you can control the bubble of you. So you can only.
So if folks are interested in checking out Smart Recovery or Smart for Friends and Family, where can they find meetings?
So SMART actually has a really cool, let me see. Yeah, oh, it was right there. Find a local meeting. So you can go this route, and this will pull up. You just put in your location, and you can find a meeting near you. I think they have some in person right now, but most of them are online. And oh gosh, there we go. Nope. And if you're in Huntington, or not, but in West Virginia in general, we host a Smart Recovery every Tuesday at 12 p.m. It is online right now. So you can go to our website. It's marshall.edu/collegiate-recovery-community/ and then you can usually navigate to get here. You go to the Smart Recovery meetings. It normally drops down, but I'm on the page, so it's not going to. And then we have our Recovery Herd support group meeting, which is Smart Recovery. And I update this link every week. So you just come here, you click on it, and then it will pull up the link. I'm normally on around 11:45, so that way if new people come on, I can answer questions for them. I think you can also get to it through our Facebook page, which is Marshall University Collegiate Recovery Community. We have an event up, so you can just copy, and it takes you right to this link right here.
Great. Great. Well, thank you, Jamie. This was very informative, and hopefully this will help expose some people to another pathway. So I appreciate your time, and we'll hope to see you soon.
No problem. Thank you.